Well, welcome back, everybody. As I mentioned yesterday, you're the very first group to see this investigation. I know that there are a number of you that didn't get a chance to finish it, but you have time tonight to finish it on your own or to go through it again. And we really appreciate all of your rigorous feedback on this, especially if you can give us an estimate of how long did it take you to do it, if you kind of eliminated some of the teacher chat that was going on. That will be helpful for us to know. I wanted to take a little while before we do our wrap up today to talk to you about one other new topic. Today, we already have hit on the fact that we're going to ask some questions about differentiation, but something else we'd like to know about, and we didn't have an appropriate day to put it in, so today's the day, is we'd like to know about an idea we have about doing assessment videos. Now, I want to preface this by saying, I don't know if we're going to do this. And as we mentioned before, we're a very small staff with limited resources. So if we committed to doing this, this is a big undertaking of both staff time and resources. So we would like your opinion on something. And that is, I'm going to show a video to you in a minute. And we would like to know, and you're going to tell us this with your evaluation tonight, how enthusiastic are you about using videos of this sort? Well, I mean, would you have to have it? Would you do the investigation without it? Would you not use it at all? What do you think? And what we don't want you to answer is, oh yeah, you should make them. Because, you know, as teachers, we're really guilty of taking free things even if we don't want them or never intend to use them. I mean, how many times have you come back from a conference with just a ton of things that go into the circular file eventually because you never looked at it, but you took it because it was free and that was cool, right? So we don't want, oh, it's free, so you should do it answer. We want to know, would you really use this? Do you feel this is integral? How important is it on the relative scale of the other support materials we're giving you? And then we'll take that feedback into consideration and make a decision down the road about whether or not we might do this. Another possibility is when you watch this video, think about this. We could perhaps do this in a PDF or a PowerPoint format. And if that would be something that would change your opinion of the video negatively or positively, we'd like to know that today. And again, you'll answer these questions as part of your evaluation tonight. So you don't have to tell us right now in the chat. But I mean, if you can't help yourself, you can certainly say something. So I wanted to take a minute and share screen. And I'm going to take you, first of all, to the meeting page, just so you can see where I am. And can you see my screen with the meeting page on it? Yes, good, thank you. So under day 4, resources, there are these two things called the HR diagram assessment video, and then the same one in Spanish. Now, we have an investigation we've written already on the HR diagram. It's called The Window to the Stars. And somebody asked earlier this week, why didn't you show us this one instead of blowing up stars? Why don't you talk to us about how stars form first? And the simple answer is, we're not ready. We have the investigation written, but we don't have good data yet. So we'll get that out eventually. But what we did do, since this was the very first investigation we wrote, is we made a video to go along with it as a formative assessment tool. So a lot of you are familiar with formative assessment, where you just kind of gauge how your class is doing with things. And so what I'd like to do now is play this video for you. We may or may not have a few minutes for discussion on it afterwards, and then we'll do our final wrap up of the day. Okay, can you now see a video on your screen or not? YouTube, okay, great. All right, I'll go ahead and start this then.
And that really bright red star there, Betelgeuse, is in the constellation Orion.
Alana, I think it's pronounced Betelgeuse?
Thanks, Coulson. I'm sticking with Betelgeuse.
Wow, how did you learn how to find it? It's easy, Bill. First, you find Orion's belt. 1, 2, 3, and Betelgeuse is just there.
Hey, remember when we learned about stars and the HR diagram in class? If we plot Orion's belt on an HR diagram, will the stars all be in a line?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure the HR diagram isn't for plotting the position of stars.
Oh yeah, I remember. It's for plotting their properties, how bright they are, and how hot they are, just like we did in class with a star cluster.
The teacher asked us to create an HR diagram that represents properties of stars in this cluster.
All right, let's do this. So the y-axis, this one is brightness, getting brighter as you go up. And
The x-axis is temperature, getting hotter as you go to the right.
Slow down. Something about the labels doesn't look right to me. I think there's something wrong about the temperature axis on this diagram.
maybe the y-axis isn't brightness.
I thought this diagram included distance too.
Shall we let the class decide?
Who?
The class. These guys.
I feel self-conscious now.
I think you're right, Alana. The temperature actually goes from hot to cool, so the arrow should go this way.
That looks better. The hotter blue stars are on the left, and the cooler red stars are on the right.
Okay, let's start plotting some stars. I know we need a lot of stars up here that are bright and blue, and just a few down here that are red and dim. Also some stars up here, and some stars down here.
I think you have it backwards. Most of the main sequence stars are red and dim. There are only a few bright blue main sequence stars.
I think there's an equal number of all the different types of stars along the main sequence.
So we ask the class again?
Great idea. Oh, right. We learned that there are a lot more dim red main sequence stars than there are bright blue main sequence stars. So I'll get rid of some of these bright blue stars and add some more dim red main sequence stars.
Hey, what's up with these stars down here? Why are they so dim?
Maybe they're dim because they're so much farther away.
Let's all stare at the class until we have an answer.
Coulson, remember that all the stars in this graph are from the same cluster, so they must all be the same distance from Earth. Also, remember that they are formed at the same time, so they're all the same age.
Oh, of course.
Well, now that we have our HR diagram how we want it, let's do this challenge question the teacher gave us.
Okay, it says we need to circle a star in the upper left and call that A. Then find a star in the upper right with the same brightness and call that B.
Next, we find one in the bottom left that has the same temperature as A, and circle that as star C. Then we're asked to rank these stars from largest to smallest size.
I think A and C are the same size because they have the same temperature. And they're both bigger than B, which is much cooler.
I think A and B are the same size because they have the same brightness, and they're both bigger than C, which is way dimmer.
I think we don't have enough information from this diagram to rank the star sizes.
Okay, Bill. I agree that A and B are giving off the same amount of energy, which makes them look equally bright. But since B is a lot cooler than A, wouldn't that mean B would have to be larger than A to give off the same amount of energy?
I see what you mean now. So this must be where the red giant stars are plotted.
Stars A and C are the same temperature, but star A gives off much more energy. The only way it could do that is if it's much bigger than C.
So you're saying that none of these three stars have the same size?
Shall we see how the class would rank the sizes of the stars?
So our ranking for the size of the stars is B is bigger than A, and A is bigger than C.
I agree.
So if C is our smallest star, then the stars near C are the white dwarfs.
We're done.
Nailed it.
So that bright red star you showed me up there,
Betelgeuse.
Betelgeuse.
I wonder if it's a red giant.
I'll bet you're right. If it weren't really big, it wouldn't be so bright.
It's cool how much you can learn about stars from a diagram.
I wanted to say a few other things about this video in terms of design. We were thinking about doing this with actual students, but decided that if we did that, your students might not see themselves as one of the characters in this. So the video company we worked with suggested to us that we create sort of amorphous figures so that someone could identify regardless of where they lived or what year it was, and you know, what they might look like. Another thing you might have noticed is that the character names started with A, B, and C. That's because many of us use student response cards, especially in lectures, where you might have the A, B, C, D color codes where the class just shows you the correct letter. So if you wanted to do that as a quick quiz, that's why we named the characters and gave them the names we did. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that the Spanish version, which you're welcome to watch, and I won't show it to you right now in the interest of time, is also exactly the same, but everything, of course, translated, with the exception of, you'll see that the constellation Orion is correctly positioned for the Southern Hemisphere. So we're thinking about our audience in Chile and how they would see it there. So I just wanted to say a few things about that video that might not have been obvious from watching it, and then look forward to hearing what you think about it tonight. Okay, so yeah, I see one of the chat comments from Marshall. We were not that imaginative, Marshall, when we wrote the script for this video, but our video company gave us a lot more help with creating character for these students, which I really appreciate. I think it added a lot of richness to the video. Okay, so just to talk to you about tonight and what we're going to be doing, in addition to asking you about the video, and in addition to asking you some questions about differentiation, if you do that, the other area that we're going to talk to you a little bit about is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're going to ask you to reflect back on the investigation that you worked on today to see if you see inclusive elements that we've embedded in its design. As before, you have 2 evaluation forms that you must complete, and 1 optional evaluation form that you can use to tell us anything else you'd like to talk about during our discussion tomorrow, or just other input that you have about anything in general. And you don't have to limit yourself to what you did today. If now you have a new thought on something you did a few days ago and you'd like to write it in there, feel free to do that as well. So as before, we'll have our recorded sessions and our speaker slides posted within a couple hours of the end of this session. And before we sign off for today, any last questions? Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Good to see you all, and we'll see you tomorrow for our last day together.
Thank you.